Tim Urban's TED Talk is one of the most viewed of all time, with over 52 million people having watched it. The question is, why? Why are so many people so engaged by Tim's talk? Well, my name's Kyle Murter. I'm a public speaking coach, champion, and author, and today I'm going to answer that question by pointing out 3 things that Tim does incredibly well in his TED Talk. And these 3 things, by the way, are stuff that you can use in your presentations too. Now, being a public speaking coach, I'm also going to point out 2 ways in which Tim could improve his TED Talk to make it even more impactful. So stay to the end of the video so that you get those key tips as well. Now, you might want to watch Tim's talk in full before watching this, so I'll put a link to his TED Talk in the description below. But let's get cracking. Let's get into the 3 things that Tim does incredibly well. The first reason Tim's talk is so successful is because he talks about a relatable problem. And he brings this problem up very early in his talk. Check this out.
So in college, I was a government major, which means I had to write a lot of papers. Now, when a normal student writes a paper, they might spread the work out a little like this. So, you get started maybe a little slowly, but you get enough done in the first week that with some heavier days later on, everything gets done and things stay civil. And I would want to do that like that. That would be the plan. I would have it all ready to go, but then actually the paper would come along, and then I would kind of do this. And that would happen every single paper.
Now ask yourself, could you relate to that problem? Have you ever put something off when you really should have just got on and done it? Of course you have. We've all procrastinated at some point. So within the first 40 seconds of Tim's talk, he is already connected with us. He's already established some common ground. We can see ourselves in him. So that is a powerful, powerful opening. And this is something you can do too in your presentation. Ask yourself, what relatable problem could I cover? What problem would resonate with the audience I'm speaking to? And then when you have that answer, bring it up early in your talk, because you'll connect with them early, you'll engage with them early, and you'll make them want to know if you've got a solution to that problem, like we do with Tim's talk now. The second reason people are so engaged by Tim's talk is his use of humor. Let me give you an example.
And so I did the only thing I could. I wrote 90 pages over 72 hours, pulling not 1 but 2 all-nighters. Humans are not supposed to pull 2 all-nighters. Sprinted across campus, dove in slow motion, and got it in just at the deadline. I thought that was the end of everything. But a week later, I get a call. And it's the school. And they say, "Is this Tim Urban?" And I say, "Yeah." And they say, "We need to talk about your thesis." And I say, "Okay." And they say, "It's the best one we've ever seen." That did not happen. It was a very, very bad thesis.
So as you can see, Tim uses a little bit of misdirection there to catch us off guard and make us laugh. And he does this throughout his entire talk. And yes, the benefit is it makes it more entertaining, but the real benefit of including more humor in your presentation is it opens up your audience's minds to your ideas. You see, many audiences, they have barriers in place. They're blocking you off. They're skeptical of the information you're trying to give them. But some humor can bring down those barriers, and people become a bit more receptive to what you're saying, and they'll take your ideas on board. So if you can, try to find some ways to add humor in your presentations. Whether it be using misdirection, like we saw from Tim there, or maybe some self-deprecating humor. Try to sprinkle that in so that your presentation is, yes, more entertaining, but it brings down the barriers so that your message can come through. The third reason Tim's TED Talk has been viewed 52 million times, in my opinion, is his delivery. His delivery throughout the presentation is extremely engaging. Let me show you this quick clip here just to give you a feel of what I'm talking about.
But in the middle of all this excitement, the rational decision maker seemed to have something else in his mind. He was saying, are we clear on what we just accepted? Do we get what's going to be now happening one day in the future? We need to sit down and work on this right now. And the monkey said, totally agree, but also let's just open Google Earth and let's zoom into the bottom of India, like 200 feet above the ground, and we're going to scroll up for 2.5 hours till we get to the top of the country so we can get a better feel for India.
So as you can see, Tim throughout that whole clip was using lots of gestures, and not just small gestures in here. He used big gestures that the whole audience could see, and they were open panned, and they were animated, and they were flowing, and his voice was also talking at pace as well, and then slowing down at points too. And it's that variation of gesturing and variation of his voice that keeps us engaged all the way through his presentation. And that's something you can do too. You can think about using more gestures to express your ideas. You can think about how you can vary your voice, where you should really lift things and build up the energy, and where you should drop it down for more serious points. Now, like I say, I'm not just here to point out what Tim did well. He did many, many more things than I've mentioned well, but I don't have time to cover them all in this video. But what I do want to do, to give you as much value as possible too, is point out 2 ways in which Tim could potentially improve going forward. So the first is all about pausing. Let me show you a few clips, and as you're watching these, ask yourself, should Tim have paused here?
But there's a second kind of procrastination that happens in situations when there is no deadline. So if you want to have a career where you want to be a self-starter, it's that long-term procrastination has made them feel like a spectator at times in their own lives. You know, the frustration was not that they couldn't achieve their dreams, it's that they weren't even able to start chasing them. So I read these.
Tim had a very poignant line there. He said, the frustration was not that they couldn't achieve their dreams, but that they couldn't start chasing them. But Tim didn't pause, did he? No, he just carried on. And because of that, we lost that opportunity to think about that poignant point and really allow it to resonate to our own lives. So that's one way Tim could potentially improve, and it's something you should look out for too. Identify key areas in your presentation where a pause would allow your point to resonate even deeper with the audience. Now, the second way that Tim could improve, and for me personally, this is the big point for improvement, is in Tim's talk, there was a lot of explanation as to why we procrastinate. And I recommend you watch the whole video to get a feel of what I'm saying here. But there wasn't a lot on how to overcome procrastination. At the end of the talk, Tim basically says, don't procrastinate, your life is short. But he doesn't really give us the tools in order to stop procrastinating. Because we all know, yes, we're going to die one day, and that, yes, we should maximize every hour of our lives, yet we don't. So it would have been fantastic if Tim had given us a couple of tips, a few tips on how we can stop procrastination so that we can go forth and achieve our dreams. So that we can not even achieve them, but just start chasing them. That would have made his talk even more powerful and even more helpful for his audience. So for you, looking forward, when you're creating a talk, make sure you always include the how. Don't just tell people about the problem and why the problem's happening. Give them the solution to that problem, how to get over it so that they can go on to live more prosperous lives. So there you have it. This was a fantastic talk by Tim. I'm not surprised at all that it has 52 million views at the recording of this video. And hopefully you've been able to take a few tips from this video today and bring them into your own presentations going forward. Now, if you do have a big presentation coming up that you would like some support with, I do want to let you know that I can do an evaluation, like I've done for Tim, for your presentation. I can analyze your delivery, your content, your slides if you have them, and help you prepare for that big presentation so that when you get to that big day, you're ready to go out there and own it like Tim. If you would be interested in learning more about that, email me at kyle@confidencebydesign.co.uk or just leave a comment below if that is easier. But I wish you the very best for your next presentation. Thank you so much for watching, and remember to always have a relatable problem, sprinkle in a bit of humor, and third, and of course, the most important of all, make sure that your delivery is as engaging as possible.